This is the Cameron Journal Podcast. It's a place where we talk about important things. It's a place where we bring a little slice of the news to you. It's a place where we do important things, have important conversations. It's also things that I like to talk about. My name is Cameron Cowan, and this is the Cameron Journal Podcast. Today on the Cameron Journal Podcast, we are joined by June Edwards. She is how does it describe her here? A psychic medium and author. And she has spent her life exploring unseen things and forces. And she's written a new book called The 5 Love Lessons, Understanding the Why Behind the Relationship. And it says here that it's a profound exploration of the universe's role in guiding us towards our highest potential. So I'm very excited to hear more about this book and how we can be guided to our highest potential. So welcome, June, to the Cameron Journal Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, so why don't you start from the beginning and tell us about your book and why you wrote it?
Well, my mediumship abilities really opened up about 8 years ago. I died when I was 27. I came back here by choice, and everything seems to happen in life when it's supposed to happen, and you can't make it happen before. So about 8 years ago, I started meditating, and my abilities just opened up like a floodgate. And like most psychic mediums, I started reading cards at festivals and things, and everybody wanted to know about relationships. So from there, I developed a program. I have a 7-week online program called the Relationship Mastery Program, and that is geared towards helping repair broken marriages, broken relationships. And I only work with one person in the relationship, and I have an amazing success rate. What I do is they teach them how energy works and how to get in touch with their soul, because we are not this body, we are actually the soul that's inside. And when one person changes, everything changes, because for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. So from putting hundreds and hundreds of people through the program, I recognized a pattern and started conversing with the other side a little bit more to discover that we come back here for a few major reasons, but one of them is to learn our 5 major lessons that our soul has to learn in order to advance. And that is what the book is about, the 5 lessons that we come here to learn.
Excellent. Wow. Oh, it sounds like an incredible bit of a journey. So what are the 5? Can you tell us about the 5 lessons
Sure.
and what they mean for us?
Sure, 5 lessons. So the first one is patience. Things don't happen in your time, and we live in a society now of instant gratification. So patience is very difficult for a lot of people now, to wait until the time that it's supposed to happen. You planned your life here before you came here, and certain events are supposed to happen at certain times, and that's when they happen. The next one is communication and trust. You have to trust that there is a plan. There is a higher power, and things are always happening for your highest and best. No one is out to do anything to you. No one is out to hurt you. Believe me, everyone behind the scenes is really here to help you. But communication and trust go together, because if you can't communicate with someone, how are you ever going to trust them in a relationship? And if you don't trust them, how are you going to communicate with them? And sex is just another form of communication. And if you don't trust them and you can't communicate, that's not going to happen either, right?
Right.
Then you have balance and money. And balance and money go together, because money is the vehicle that we use in this lifetime to learn balance. Money, in effect, is energy. That's why it's called currency. And everything in the universe has to stay in balance. This is why you have the day and the night, the yin and the yang. If your energy is not balanced, that you'll find that you have highs and lows, and you're literally riding a terrible roller coaster your whole life unless you can balance your energy. The next one is unconditional love. And that's a very difficult lesson for a lot of people. Again, your husband cheats on you. He didn't cheat on you because he didn't like you or love you. He cheated on you because it was part of his plan. Maybe he needed to realize that you were the most valuable person in the world and that there is nothing, the grass is never greener, things like that. Whatever his lesson was, it was his lesson. It wasn't your fault. It was nothing that you did. Whether you stay together or you don't stay together, people need to learn how to let go with love. You can love someone and still not have them in your life. Wish them well, say goodbye, but it's really about unconditional love. And that truly means loving without condition. It's not, I'm going to love you as long as you have a job and bring money in. It's not, I'm going to love you as long as you do what I want you to do. It's just plain loving, because the two things you take with you and you go to the other side is just love and knowledge. And that's it.
Mm.
And the last thing that we need to learn is, let me go through them again, patience, unconditional love, and come on, June. Let me think
Oh
what
no,
that last lesson
we
is.
lost one. Oh
We lost
no.
that lesson. What is that last lesson we have to learn? I always forget when I'm put on the spot.
Oh, it's
Goodness.
quite okay. Well, here, I'll cover up for you, and we'll move on to the next question. If anything, it will give people a reason to go buy the book to hear what the last one was that we can't remember right now. So, not the first time that's happened. It happens to me as well.
Fortunately, it's in my index. So the biggest lesson and one of the toughest lessons and the last lesson is self-worth. And many
Self-worth.
people don't value themselves. They don't think they don't think they're worthy of enjoying life or having money or having a beautiful person in their life or being able to move up the ladder or whatever it is. People have issues with self-worth. And a lot of people want to self-sacrifice and, play the martyr because they don't believe they're valuable. And putting yourself first is not narcissistic. It's where everything starts from. It's not selfish. If you are in a plane and the oxygen came down, what do they tell you to do? They tell you to put it on yourself first so you can help someone else. If you're not here, you can't help anybody else. You're no good to anyone else. So self-worth is one of the most important lessons.
Mm.
And those
Well,
are the five.
yeah. So what when you I guess so you said your psychic abilities opened up 8 years ago and all this type of thing. How did that happen? Did you just kind of wake up one day getting a message, or what how
Well,
did that develop?
I was born with the abilities. I was born with a lot of psychic ability and a lot of mediumship ability. But as a child, you don't know what it is. I'd wake up in the morning and there'd be people standing around my bed. That's a pretty scary thing. I'd hear people calling my name, think it was my parents, and it wasn't. And then as I got older and went to school and started telling people what was going to happen, you get labeled a freak really quick. So you learn how to just block it as best as you can and move on and try to ignore it. When I've been in business my whole life. I died when I was 27. I came back here by choice. And you would have thought at that point things would have really opened up, but they didn't because it wasn't the time. I still had to go through a lot of my own learning process before I would be able to relate and help the people that I help. So I was going through a second divorce and having a lot of difficulty and decided to go have Reiki done, which is energy work for some relaxation. And she recommended that I try to meditate to relax and relieve some of the stress. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to meditate. I'm running 5 businesses. I'm going through a divorce. I'm going crazy. So the first time I tried to meditate, literally, I opened the door and my abilities started flooding me. I did not know how to turn it off. I started panicking again, and I just started looking for anybody that could teach me how to control this ability, because I literally could not turn it off. And the old adage, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I found some wonderful mentors to help me. Spent a year and a half in training to know who I'm talking with, how to turn it on, how to turn it off, what the messages mean, what the signs are, things like that.
Fascinating. Oh, so this is a kind of a big departure from the rest of your life in business and everything.
Oh yeah, I was one of those people that if I couldn't see it, feel it, touch it, couldn't be real. But I was always very drawn to the paranormal, so I literally would go on haunted vacations everywhere. And I would, yeah, and I would sense things and I still would hear things a little bit, but I was still scared. I was afraid of it. And you can't do this work if you have any fear. You just can't. I mean, I've done amazing stuff. I've chased a demon around a 3 family. You cannot have fear. You have to know that you're working with God and angels and the light, and trust that they have you on the path that you're supposed to be on.
Hmm. Oh, so what's the basic sort of a thing people might use this and read it and apply to their life to get to their next stage of development?
So a lot of people want to live in drama, and drama is just a low vibration. And the lower your vibration, the more you're going to be stuck in life, going around like a hamster on a wheel. The higher your vibration, the more you become the magnet, because we are always like magnets. We're either repelling or we are attracting at any given time. So the higher your vibration, the more you attract into your life. And literally, that's how the law of attraction works. And when you can balance your energy, you can have the law of attraction working for you 100% of the time. And you can literally have anything you want in this world.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of this. I don't know how you feel about this. I feel like there's so much of this sort of pop spirituality going around right now. Meditation has gone from like Buddhist monks in a mountain to this sort of democratized thing they're doing in Silicon Valley and all this type of thing. How do you feel about that? Do you think it takes away at all, or just having it be more mainstream add to it?
Honestly, it's like religion, right? There's 176 recognized religions just in the United States. Everything serves a purpose. If it brings the collective to a higher consciousness, that's all that matters. If it's raising the vibration and it's leading people away from evil to good, then it's serving its purpose. Everyone here really has their own plan and their own path. The universe wants you to think you have a choice, but the reality of it is you don't. If they offer you door 1, 2, and 3, you take door 1, you go through it, you get married, you have children. You didn't learn your lesson that you're supposed to learn. You end up in front of door 1, 2, and 3 again. If you didn't learn that lesson, you take door 1 the second time. You get married, you have children, you get divorced. Guess where you're going to be? In front of door 1, 2, and 3. Well, if you learned the lesson, maybe it was self-worth for you, maybe it was communication and trust, whatever the lesson was that you were supposed to be learning, you're not going to take door 1 again. You're going to take door 2 or door 3. And you may still get married and have children when you go through that door, but you've already learned that lesson. So it's not going to end the same way. You're not going to end up in front of the same options again. So the choice that you have only delays the plan that you've made for yourself. And I think it's a wonderful thing that no matter what the cause, people are starting to be awakened and brought to the light.
Absolutely. And that, yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So who did you have in mind when you wrote this book? Who was your audience?
Everyone is my audience, basically, but it's the people that need me and find me are the ones that I'm supposed to be helping. The universe brings them to me.
Hmm.
So anybody that's listening to your podcast is somebody that is my audience and should be listening and reading and trying to heighten their vibration, raise their vibration.
Yeah, I know we only people say that about, raising vibration a lot and all this type of thing. But what does that actually like mean in a practical sense?
So again, we are all energy. Your soul is pure energy. Okay. Let's say you walk into a funeral. You can feel that low vibration in there. You can feel the sorrow and the sadness, right? That's low vibration. Now, let's say you go next door and you walk into a jubilant party or a birthday party or a wedding. You can feel the difference in the energy of the room. Those people are excited. It's a higher vibration. People can feel vibration if they pay attention, and you want to stay in that high vibration.
Hmm. Oh, so how did you come up with these five lessons? Did you get a message? Did you find what made sense? Where did they come from?
Well, I spent a lot of time, and I still spend a lot of time on the other side. I have the ability to go to the fifth dimension at any time, which is the lowest level of heaven. And I see energy, I see spirits, I can talk to them. I've got a lot of information. Everything that I've learned from the other side for the most part. And by practical use of my program, the Relationship Mastery Program, and helping hundreds of people repair their relationships, I have learned through trial and error what it was that the lessons were that they were all needed to learn. It was always the same lessons.
Hmm. Oh, what do you think is the biggest problem in relationships with people that you work with?
The biggest problem is ego. Um, the most difficult students that I've had were people that are trained to take direction, lawyers, military, doctors. They're trained to just, buy the book, buy the book, buy the book. And they have difficulty understanding that what they've learned in a book and what they've been told and trained to do is not all there is. They have to open their mind and be able to process the information that I give them so that they can actually get in touch with their soul and see that and feel that there is more.
Yeah, it's a funny coincidence. I was just having a conversation on this very topic with someone this morning, and I was talking about how in my own situation, I said, the world that I was prepared for, the world that I thought was going into is gone. And so I'm a bit of a throwback, I'm a bit of a dinosaur, I'm a bit of anachronistic. Um, and they said, oh, but you're getting so much more. And I'm kind of like, more is relative.
Everything is relative, absolutely. And when you look at your life from a higher perspective and you learn how to be grateful for the things that you have, the universe brings you more of what you want. That's how it works. That's how high vibration works. They hear you, they see you. It's like two-way glass. They're banging on it saying, hello, hello, I'm here. They can see you, they can hear you, and they have enough energy, a lot of them, that can move objects, they can touch you, they can do things like that. And if you're not paying attention and if you're not being sensitive to the energy and listening and connecting with your own soul, then you're just going to be totally oblivious.
Yeah, that is that definitely makes sense. How would you define your spiritual path at this stage? Are you anything in particular or just doing your own thing?
I'm not understanding. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Oh,
What would the
I was meaning like, are you like a part of any church organization or anything like that, or are you just
so
yourself?
so no, I don't belong to any organized religion. They're all right and they're all wrong, and technically they're all businesses. They all serve a purpose. They all serve a purpose. Everything serves a purpose. And the world is my church. Basically, people are my church. um this side and the other side. I don't you really deal with low vibrational entities unless I absolutely have to. So for instance, ghosts and things, I don't deal with them unless I absolutely have to. If I have to go do a house clearing because there's somebody stuck there and I need to move them into the light, then that's what I do. But for the most part, I really work with people from the light, angels, guides, souls that have gone into the light, people's family members that they didn't get closure with, that they need to talk with. I still do readings. I still do mediumship because there is a need for it. So I try to fill that need wherever I'm needed.
That's great. Right, you're one of those lovely people who is so like very zen and centered and not at all crazy intense, and that's quite spectacular. I'm not any of those things. Um, so I always appreciate it when I see it in others.
I'm passionate, trust me. I'm very passionate. And I get very excited when I have the opportunity to educate people because somebody had to teach me. I was taught from this side and then I was taught the rest from the other side. And I'm grateful for what I know and what they've taught me. And that's why I get very excited when I get the opportunity to tell other people. I mean, really, how many people get to die and go to heaven and come back? Really? It's
It's
amazing.
it's a very rare thing. And when it comes to that sort of thing, most people would dismiss that as a sort of because every once in a great while you'll see these people come say, oh, particularly on 60 Minutes or Dateline, they love this stuff. Oh, I died, and they'll come back and describe what it was and all this type of thing. And people always just kind of sort of poo-poo the whole thing. Um, what was your experience? What was it like, and what would you tell them?
So it's interesting because they call it an NDE, a near death experience. And I never considered it that because I died. It wasn't near death to me. I died. And it was an out that I had written into my plan. And I was told point blank that it wasn't my time, but I could stay if I wanted to. It was my choice. And less than 1% of the people that have a near death experience make it to the level that I made it to, which was the fifth dimension, the lowest level of heaven, and have a full life review. And that's what I had. And there should be no fear of dying. I'm almost envious of the people that are getting out early because it's just so amazing on the other side. It's just pure love, pure knowledge, pure joy. And the only reason that I came back here was for my two children who were very small at the time. And I hadn't had my third one yet. If it weren't for them, I would not have come back. I can tell you that right now.
Mhm.
And for the people that don't believe it, you know what? If you want to believe me, that's great. If you don't, it's not my job to convince you. But for those people that really want to know what is it like, what's going on with my loved ones that are on the other side, I can tell you that they are in an amazing place. And they can be and do whatever they want because they're not tied down with this body. And, when they come through to me, they come through all different ways. My mom died at 93 and she comes through to me at the age of 19 because that was her best life when she was here. That's how she thought she looked the best.
Mhm. Yeah, it's yeah, I lived for a little while with a spiritualist medium, and that was quite entertaining. I got introduced to a whole new view of things, which was very, very interesting. And quite
This was a lot for me to wrap my own head around, trust me. And it
yeah.
took me years to talk to people about when I died because it was just so overwhelming. And it took a while to process.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that seems to be a universal thing, in the group of people that sort of have these experiences and talk about them. It is kind of, I suppose, it is a significant life moment. So it's gonna take some time to
Yeah.
process and think about and open up with and all this type of
And
thing.
it's
So
interesting because they're constantly still teaching me from the other side. It's like every time I do a reading or anytime I do anything, they're always teaching me still from the other side.
no, that's quite remarkable. So, well, let's also kind of talk about when it comes to your the type of events you go to and all this type of thing. Where would people if they wanted to meet you in person, where would they find you? What type of events do you do?
I have to be honest, other than speaking events, I don't do any other events anymore. I do paid speaking events, and that's pretty much it. I still do private readings. They can still book a reading with me online at my website, juneedward.com. I have clients that are all over the world at this point, and I still feel that that's an important part of my work. So I don't know that I'll ever stop doing that. But as far as doing all of the publicity and all the public stuff, um, other than paid speaking events, I really don't go out and do too much anymore.
No, that's probably for the best. I imagine it would be very stressful, all, to
Well,
be
it's
doing
also
that.
for safety reasons. I've had stalkers. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and it's not always the not always the safest thing to be doing.
No, no, certainly, certainly. How was your pandemic? How did you make it through?
Well, I was in Massachusetts, and I had just finished writing. I finished writing this. No, I finished writing my second book, which was my autobiography. And I decided to come down to Florida and spend some time down here. And it was normal. No masks, no closures, no craziness. So I flew back up north and rented out my home and came down here and decided to rent a place until I could buy something, and I moved.
Yeah, I spent most of 2020 between February and September traveling all around the country, 8,850 miles in six
Wow.
months. Yeah. And so I got to see every different version of the pandemic. So I was in the Berkshires for about 3 weeks of that. So I got to, which they were very strict. And then, I went down to Tennessee to a writing residency in Franklin, south of Nashville. What pandemic?
Yeah.
So it was all sorts of different
Well, it's all about
variances
fear,
throughout
and
the
it
country.
played on people's fear. Again, your brain has a specific job to protect you. How does it do it? It does it by creating fear. And if people are making decisions based on fear, it's a crapshoot. You don't know if it's the right decision. You're always going to question it. If you make a decision with your soul, it's the right decision 100% of the time. And they played that whole thing on people's fears, and that's why they were able to do it.
Yeah, well, and I think what's fascinating to me now is we have, I don't know how online you are, but there's now this whole cadre of people on social media who are still acting like it's 2020. Like it's so frightening. Like they're still like isolating. There's one woman who posted a picture. She was sleeping in a tent in her garage because her husband stopped taking strict COVID precautions.
How
And
sad
that's
is
just
that?
nuts. I know. Like that's when I see this stuff, I'm just kind of like, oh my goodness, have you not heard? Like we have drugs now, people aren't dying. Like it's really okay. Like you don't have to live like that. And people are clinging to it like rats on the Titanic. And I don't understand what has gone wrong in people's brains.
Well, it's not hard to manipulate someone's brain. Again, it's a computer. So if you got a bad chip up there, guess what happens? You keep playing the same loop over and over. It's a computer.
Yeah,
And
it's a
there's not a lot
difficult.
around for people. There's not a lot of mental health, around for people anymore. So
No, that is true.
it's being exaggerated and exuberated, and it's very, very sad. And people haven't been taught to think for themselves for a very long time. The school systems have been brainwashing people for years. And if you can't think for yourself, you're going to believe everything everybody tells you. It's that simple. You're not going to be able to research it yourself and find out the truth.
Yeah. No, that when it comes how someone mentioned this seems pressing to our conversation. I was at a writing residency last year in 2022, and it kind of ended in disaster because sometimes certain people don't like someone like me. And I was speaking to the person who's running the program, and I said, I have to go. This is not a good place for me to be, all this type of thing. And she said something that always has stuck out in my mind. She said, I have never seen people bring so much trauma with them than I've seen this year in 2022. What has been your experience working with your clients and your people in terms of, I feel like the pandemic kind of broke everyone. That's my humble opinion. The pandemic broke everyone, and we're just living in the ashes of it.
It
What's your
broke the
experience
system.
been?
It broke the system. Is what it did, and it was designed to break the system. So the system is no more. And yes, society is basically in ashes right now. And it's almost like the leaders that we have are leading us down a very bad path for a
Yeah.
specific reason. And what people don't understand is, just like money and balance, money is the vehicle we use to learn balance. Politics is the vehicle we use here so people understand the difference between good and evil. And after my abilities had opened up and I started seeing a lot of the things that were happening, I'm like, oh my God, there's a major war going on here between good and evil. And they're like, yeah, June, calm down. It's been going on for thousands of years. It's just out of balance again. And it happens every few 100,000 years, whatever. You had Sodom and Gomorrah, you had World War II with the Nazis, and now you have it again. It happens faster and faster every time for whatever reason. The timeline is sped up quite a bit, but it is again a major war on this earth of good and evil. And you have to trust and know that good will always win. Good will win, but it's a process. And we've been in a war now for almost 12 years that's been playing out on this front. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of people lost in this war. But in the end, good will prevail. God will prevail. You call him whatever you'd like. There's one source energy.
Fascinating, fascinating. Well, how's Florida these days? Good?
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
I imagine you
Beautiful
meditating
weather.
on the beach.
I don't usually, because there's a lot of traffic and a lot of people. I usually meditate at my home. Yeah, but it's,
Yeah.
I do go to the beach every morning to watch the sunrise, because anyone that's spiritual is also an empath, which means they're absorbing a lot of that negative energy from other people. And that needs to be cleared out every day. And sea salt is the best way to do that. So every morning, I'm not only breathing it because I'm a half mile from the ocean, but I go down every morning and sit by it to really cleanse out all that negativity. Because you can't go to the store and not pick it up. It's like lint, you can't just walk through a store and not pick up that, they're positive ions, so they stick to you basically.
Yes, one must clean the spiritual detritus.
Yes, absolutely. And that has to be a daily thing. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, this is the part of the show where we do plugs. Let us know where we can find you online, where we can buy the book, and we'll bring it to a close.
Certainly. You can find me online at juneedward.com, no S, juneedward.com. You can sign up for a free webinar on that, on my website as well. You can schedule appointments with me. There are links for the books. You can find my books everywhere, but there are links for all my books on my website. Dancing with the Universe is my autobiography, The Making of a Medium. A Night on the Other Side is my first book, which is everything I taught in psychic development and mediumship development for anyone that would like to enhance their own skills. And The 5 Love Lessons, the why behind the relationship, is my latest book. And that will probably open up a lot of people's eyes as to why they're with the person they're with, or why they were with the person that they were with. What was it they were supposed to be learning? What are they missing? What do they need to do?
Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Cameron Journal podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful to meet you, and I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend.
That's all for this episode of the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Visit us online at CameronJournal.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I love to talk to my followers and listeners, so please feel free to get us on social media at Cameron Cowan on Twitter. And we'll see you next time on the Cameron Journal podcast.